Hey, this is Nick Nilsson, the mad scientist of muscle, and what I've got for you today here is a really special guest video from my good friend David Barr. Now, this is an eccentric focused exercise that he calls a Barr Flye, and not Barr Flye like you're going to the bar in a fun way. This is a Barr Flye that is going to trash your chest. This is a fantastic exercise, so I'll let Dave take it from here.
I'm about to show you how to tap into 2/3 of your force potential that you're leaving on the table every single rep. You can imagine this has huge implications for not only strength, but muscle growth, by extension fat loss. This is going to be huge. It's going to change the way you look at training. Now imagine the implications if we could tap into this force. That's exactly what we're going to do, how to tap into this eccentric force potential. Because right now our concentric, we're using about 1/3 of our maximum force. Imagine what happens if we can tap into the other 2/3. The results are incredible. Now I've shown this in another video using what's called an isokinetic device. That is a device that doesn't move any faster or slower based on how hard we're pushing on it. Now I show this example with an isokinetic chest press device. It is very, very powerful. And there's an Easter egg in the video. See if you can find that. So the key here is turning your treadmill into an isokinetic device. The treadmill is only going to move as fast as you set the speed to. It is not going to change other than that. So we perform pec-flyes, what we'll ultimately call Barr Flyes in this example, and we resist eccentrically. We are trying to push against the treadmill as hard as we can. We just can't actually move it. It is isokinetically resisting us and pushing us backwards. And this is why I wanted to collab with Nick Nilsson. Not only is the guy the most innovative when it comes to movements, I've known him for about 15 years. He's the only guy who can consistently make me sore, but he also gets eccentric training. The idea that we are not slowly lowering a load. We are trying to resist it as hard as we can. We are trying to fight that load. That is true eccentric. That is how we are really tapping into our eccentric potential. Because right now we are constrained by our concentric strength. It is incredibly limiting, and right now we're almost perceiving the eccentric or the negative as a convenient rest between the real work of concentric reps. We need to change that thinking if we're going to tap into that maximal force potential. Now, key point, you want to stay away from the ends of the treadmill. I only focus on the center of the treadmill because things can get caught in the belt. This is potentially very dangerous. That is why I do not recommend these. I love the eponymous nature, but the idea that my name could be affiliated with something that is potentially dangerous. I mean, Barr Flyes kill 10 people, news at 11. I mean, we don't want that, right? Now I'm showing two speeds here. I start off with the lower speed to really get the feel of the movement. Not only is it really weird to perform, I mean, just the idea of resisting an eccentric and isokinetically being overcome, we don't do that. We have to reprogram ourselves to be able to do that. It is something we have fought against, just regular gravity, every step of our lives, every rep we've ever done. So the idea of pushing hard against something and being resisted, that is new to us. We have to relearn how to train in this way. So in terms of sets and reps, again, we have to rethink what we're doing with training. Training is really the stimulus for growth, adaptation, etc. The stuff that we are after. So we are not after a metabolic stress here. That is why we are not doing regular sets and reps. The idea is I'm using more of a cluster set system. So it's more like a strength training, Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting type system where your goal is really just to produce as much force as possible for a short period of time, and then you rest. You are not trying to induce metabolic stress here. You want to be as fresh as possible for every single rep. So I'm pushing as hard as I can against the belt. Again, I am being pushed back by the belt. I am not trying to pull back. I'm trying to push just like a pec-fly. Again, this is very weird to us. We don't typically do this. We typically think of eccentrics as a lowering or accommodating resistance. We are letting the bar come down. That is not what we're after. That's not real eccentric. Again, that's that eccentric paradox, right? We are capable of much greater force production than we are actually exerting. This mid shot's really just a gratuitous back shot because I'm trying to keep up with Nick. As well as starting slowly with the belt speed, you're actually going to want to start with as few reps as possible and very, very few sets. So a set could be, sets of 4, but you're taking 5-10 seconds between reps because you are going to be exhausted after each movement. This is only going to occur when you are moving slowly, because when the belt is moving faster, your actual contraction time is reduced. So even though you're exerting more force, it's actually going to feel easier. You cannot start off that way. it is going to be way too challenging. You're not going to get the feel of how to actually dig into an eccentric that's pushing you backwards. We're going to fall into our old trap of pushing with about 80% of force and just being pushed back. It's weak. We don't want to do that. We need to focus on pushing against the treadmill as hard as possible. Really tap into that isokinetic eccentric advantage. So that's just one way that you can tap into that 2/3 maximum force potential that we are leaving on the table. Imagine the implications for muscle growth, fat loss, and strength. Special thanks to the mad scientist of muscle, Nick Nilsson. Until next time, raise the bar.